Let me ask you a simple question. What could happen in just 5 minutes? Most people would say not much, but the people who win, the ones who build businesses, write books, lead movements, transform their lives, they know the truth. 5 minutes can change everything. You see, productivity is not about the number of hours in your day. It's about what you do with the next 5 minutes. That's it. Because the difference between average and excellence isn't in the calendar, it's in the moment. And the moment you choose to act, that's where your power is. The problem is, most folks are waiting to feel motivated. They're sitting around, scrolling, thinking, planning, dreaming, but they're not moving. And here's the truth. You don't need motivation to move. You need to move to get motivated. Action is the ignition. Momentum is the fire. It only takes 5 minutes to light it up. That's the 5-minute rule. You don't negotiate with your feelings. You don't argue with your doubts. You just say, I'm going to do this thing, not later, not tomorrow, but right now, and I'm only committing to 5 minutes. That's all. 5 minutes of writing, 5 minutes of making calls, 5 minutes of cleaning the garage, recording the website, recording the content, making the pitch. Because when you start, something powerful happens. Your emotions begin to follow your motion. You were tired, now you're alive. You were overwhelmed, now you're focused. You were doubting, now you're producing. Why? Because the body moved first and the mind caught up. We've been lied to. We've been told success is about giant leaps, massive plans, long hours. No, the truth is micro commitments beat mega plans every single time. You want a 6-figure business? Start with 5 minutes of revenue generating action. You want a fit body? Start with 5 minutes of sweat. You want peace of mind? Start with 5 minutes of order. And don't tell me 5 minutes isn't enough. 5 minutes is how long it takes to make a decision. 5 minutes is how long it takes to shift your destiny. 5 minutes is how long it takes to stop scrolling and start building. It's not about time, it's about intention. Here's the real power of the rule. It breaks the pattern. It snaps you out of delay. Because procrastination isn't laziness, it's a loop. You're looping in your thoughts, looping in perfection, looping in fear. But the moment you act, even for 5 minutes, the loop breaks and power flows. You don't need to master the whole mountain, just master the moment. Stop looking at the 100 steps and focus on the next 5 minutes. What you do with them will either build your dream or break it down. So here's the challenge. The next time you feel stuck, tired, overwhelmed, don't make a plan. Don't make an excuse. Make a move. Set a timer. 5 minutes. Go. Because 5 minutes of focused action is more powerful than 5 hours of wishing. And if you keep stacking those 5-minute wins, you'll build a life most people only talk about. It's not the big moves that change your life. It's what you do in the next 5 minutes that will define everything. Now go get to work. Most people underestimate the power of 5 minutes. They treat it like a throwaway window, something to kill, to waste, to scroll through. But 5 minutes is not neutral. It's not passive. It either pushes you forward or pulls you back. Every 5-minute window is a fork in the road. You either build momentum or you break it. Think about it. Have you ever had a moment where you told yourself, I'll just do it later, and that 5-minute delay turned into 5 hours? That's momentum in reverse. You didn't just waste time, you shifted your energy in the wrong direction, because procrastination isn't just about delaying tasks, it's about building the habit of hesitation. But the opposite is just as true. When you take that same 5 minutes and start something, even if you don't feel like it, you build forward motion, you shift gears, you prime your brain for focus. Your energy starts to rise, your confidence starts to build, and suddenly you're not stuck anymore, you're in flow. That's the magic of momentum. It amplifies. It takes small actions and turns them into powerful results. And it all begins with a decision to use 5 minutes not as an excuse, but as an entry point. Because once you start moving, it gets easier to keep moving. Once you win the first 5 minutes, the next 5 are already halfway yours. And you don't need a 3-hour block to get going. You need 5 minutes of courageous, intentional action. That's the tipping point. 5 minutes of effort will tell your mind, we're not spectators today, we're participants. We're not stuck, we're shifting. And that shift is everything. It's the difference between a wasted day and a productive one, a lost dream and a lived one. Every 5 minutes is a vote for the person you want to become or the person you've been settling to be. The choice is yours. We're taught to wait until we feel ready, wait until we're confident, wait until we've got it all figured out. But here's the truth. You'll never feel fully ready, not for the big things, not for the things that matter. Readiness is a myth. Confidence is the result of action, not the prerequisite. The people who move fast, the ones who build momentum, aren't waiting on a feeling, they're moving on a decision. They understand that hesitation is a thief. It steals your time, your energy, your courage. And the longer you wait, the heavier the task becomes in your mind. You start to overthink, overanalyze, doubt yourself. But action cuts through all of that. The most powerful move you can make is to start before you feel like you're ready, because what happens the moment you start? You gain clarity, you get feedback, you begin to believe, not because you feel confident, but because you're doing something that builds confidence. Starting before you're ready is an act of faith. It's you telling the world and yourself, I'm not perfect, but I'm committed. I might not know everything, but I'm willing to learn. I'm not waiting for conditions to be ideal. I'm creating movement anyway. And then here's the kicker. When you start before you feel ready, you're in rare company. Most people are stuck in the cycle of preparation. They're addicted to planning. They call it being responsible, but it's just a dressed up version of fear. You don't need another plan, you need a push. Real progress isn't born in perfection, it's born in motion. It's born when you step out, even if your hands are shaking, even if your voice is uncertain, even if the timing isn't perfect, because the moment you start, you're no longer who you were 5 seconds ago. You've stepped into growth. You've stepped into power. You've stepped into your future. So stop waiting. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Start even if your knees are knocking, because you don't need to feel ready. You just need to be willing to begin. We live in a world that tells us we have to feel inspired to take action, that we have to feel motivated before we move. But the truth is the opposite. Emotion follows motion. Your feelings are not the fuel, they're the byproduct. Action is what changes how you feel, not the other way around. Think about it. Have you ever forced yourself to go to the gym, and when you didn't feel like it, and 20 minutes in you felt amazing? You didn't start with energy, you started with movement. And that movement shifted your state. It pulled you out of that low energy, low confidence place and elevated you. Why? Because the body is the fastest path to the brain. What you do physically transforms what you experience emotionally. When you sit still, you stay stuck. When you wait, your emotions harden. But when you act, even if it's small, even if it's messy, you give your mind something new to attach to. You interrupt the cycle of delay, fear, and doubt. You don't wait to feel bold, you move boldly, and that creates the feeling. You don't wait to feel positive, you take positive action, and the feeling rises to meet you. This is why successful people don't rely on moods, they rely on motion. They've trained themselves to act regardless of how they feel, because they understand that consistent action will eventually shift any emotional state. That's how they stay consistent. That's how they stay disciplined. Not because they always feel like it, but because they've mastered the principle that feeling comes after doing. This is power, because now you're not a slave to your emotions. You're not sitting around hoping the motivation fairy shows up. You're leading your emotions instead of being led by them. You're driving the vehicle instead of sitting in the back seat of your own life. The next time you feel tired, discouraged, unmotivated, move. Do something. Shift your body, your breath, your voice. Take one step forward. Write one line. Make one call. Because that motion will create a spark, and that spark will light a fire that your emotions can follow. The difference between stuck and successful isn't in how you feel, it's in what you do regardless of how you feel. Emotion follows motion. Always has, always will. We've been sold the idea that success comes from massive plans, perfect timing, and grand strategy, that you need to map out the whole journey, every step, every detail before you begin. But that mindset kills more dreams than failure ever will. Because while you're planning the perfect move, someone else is out there making imperfect progress. And that's what wins. Not the mega plan, but the micro commitment. Micro commitments are small, manageable promises you make to yourself, and more importantly, keep. They're not flashy, they're not dramatic, but they are powerful, because every time you keep one, you build trust with yourself. You prove, I do what I say I'm going to do. And that's the foundation of real confidence. Mega plans look good on paper. They feel productive in your head, but they often paralyze you in reality. Why? Because they're overwhelming. They make you think you need to do everything at once, and when you can't, you end up doing nothing at all. That's the trap of the perfectionists, always planning, rarely producing. But micro commitments, they get you moving. They give you quick wins. They shrink resistance. Instead of saying, I need to build a business, you say, I'll send one email today. Instead of saying, I need to get in shape, you say, I'll do 10 push-ups right now. That shift might seem small, but it's everything, because momentum doesn't come from big plans. It comes from small moves made consistently. The person who takes 5 minutes of focused action every day will destroy the person who waits for the perfect plan for 5 years. It's not about what you intend to do, it's about what you actually do. Micro commitments put you in motion. They train your brain to associate progress with simplicity, not struggle. So stop chasing complexity, stop obsessing over the big plan, choose the next right action, the small doable step you can take right now, then take it again tomorrow, then again the next day. Stack those micro wins until they become macro results. The game isn't won in the big moments, it's won in the small decisions no one sees, the 5-minute tasks, the 10-second choices, the simple commitments that compound. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you win. Delay doesn't always look like laziness. Sometimes it looks like planning. Sometimes it looks like researching. Sometimes it even looks like being busy. But let's call it what it is. A pattern, a loop, a trap. And if you don't interrupt that pattern, it will become your default way of living. The pattern of delay is subtle but deadly. It starts with a thought, I'll do it later. Then it turns into a habit, I always work better under pressure. Then it becomes an identity, I'm just a procrastinator. But none of that is true, it's just conditioning. And the good news is, what's been conditioned can be broken. It can be rewired, but you don't break that pattern by thinking differently. You break it by moving differently. Interrupting the pattern doesn't require a massive shift. It requires a moment of defiance. A moment where you say, not this time. A moment where you move even when you don't feel like it. A moment where you reclaim control from comfort. Because every time you choose to start, you fracture that old pattern, you weaken its grip, you build a new one. A pattern of execution, not hesitation. And here's where the 5-minute rule becomes your weapon. When you say, I'm not committing to the whole task, I'm just starting for 5 minutes, you sneak past your brain's resistance. You trick the mind into motion. And once you're in motion, the grip of delay starts to break. You begin to shift your identity from someone who waits to someone who acts. The power isn't just in what you do, it's in what you interrupt. You're not just starting a task, you're disrupting a cycle. You're choosing power over paralysis, movement over mental clutter, action over anxiety. And that choice is how you change your life. Not someday, but right now. So the next time you hear that voice whisper, do it later, recognize it for what it is, a broken record, a worn out tape that's played long enough. Then do something, anything, set a timer, stand up, make the call, write the first sentence. It doesn't matter what you start, only that you start. Because when you interrupt the pattern, you reclaim your power. And once you've done that, you're no longer at the mercy of delay, you're in command of your destiny. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is because they keep staring at the mountain. They see the entire journey, all the steps, all the effort, all the time it's going to take, and they get overwhelmed. That feeling of it's too much kicks in, and they shut down before they even begin. But here's the truth. You don't have to climb the whole mountain today. You just have to master the moment that's in front of you. Success doesn't happen by tackling everything at once. It happens by winning the moment you're in. One decision, one task, one conversation, one 5-minute window of focused effort. That's where all the leverage is, not in the size of the goal, but in your ability to take control of right now. Because here's what happens when you focus on the mountain. Your brain starts spinning stories. What if I fail? What if I don't have what it takes? What if it's too late? That's mental sabotage. But when you narrow your focus to the present moment, just the next step, all that noise fades. You take the pressure off. You shift from stress to clarity. You move from thinking to doing. Mastering the moment is about presence. It's about discipline. It's about saying, I can't control the outcome yet, but I can control this action right here, right now. And when you do that, something powerful happens. Those small moments begin to stack. One good moment turns into 2, 2 turns into 10, 10 turns into a new habit, a new pattern, a new identity. This is how greatness is built, not through grand leaps, but through small, intentional victories that most people overlook. While others are stressing over the mountain, you're mastering your moment. And over time, those moments carry you further than fear ever could. So stop asking yourself how you're going to do it all. Start asking, what's the next move I can master right now? Forget the mountain. The mountain will move when you do. Just master the moment and keep doing that. And soon you'll look up and realize you climbed higher than you thought possible. Everything you want, every goal, every breakthrough, every next level is waiting on the other side of a simple decision to stop waiting and start moving. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, not when you feel ready, but now, in the next 5 minutes. Because the 5-minute rule isn't just about productivity, it's about power. It's about reclaiming control from procrastination, perfectionism, and fear. You don't need a full plan. You don't need full clarity. You don't even need full confidence. You just need 5 minutes of courage, 5 minutes of focused action, 5 minutes where you stop negotiating with excuses and start partnering with purpose. Stack enough of those minutes and you will reshape your day, your habits, your identity. This is how momentum is built. This is how mountains are moved. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing something right now. So set the clock, pick the task, take the step, and prove to yourself starting today that 5 minutes is more than enough to change your life.